The bright lights of the Golden Sands Casino pierced through the dark Nevada evening as Staff Sergeant James Cooper pulled into the parking lot in his black Ford F-150. After 6 hours of driving from Fort Bragg, his muscles felt stiff, but his mind remained alert, a habit developed over 4 intense tours in Special Forces operations. Cooper glanced at his dress uniform hanging in the back seat. Just 12 hours ago, he had received a Silver Star for his actions in Afghanistan, where he had led a rescue mission saving 3 captured soldiers. Now, all he wanted was a quiet evening of poker to wind down before heading home to visit his family in Montana. The casino's entrance doors slid open with a soft whoosh, releasing a wave of cold air-conditioned breeze that made his short-cropped black hair rustle slightly. At 32, Cooper carried himself with the quiet confidence of a seasoned warrior. His 6-zone frame was lean but powerful, built for endurance rather than show. Inside, the familiar sounds of slot machines filled the air, the electronic beeping, the clinking of coins, and the occasional shout of victory or groan of defeat. Cooper's trained eyes automatically scanned the room, another habit he couldn't shake. Near the bar, he noticed a group of rough-looking men in leather vests, their motorcycles visible through the front windows of the casino. The sight didn't bother him. After years of special operations, Cooper had learned to observe without judgment. He made his way to the cashier's cage, exchanging $300 for chips. It was his personal limit for the evening. Discipline extended to all aspects of his life. "Table 7 has an open seat, sir," the young cashier said with a smile, her eyes lingering appreciatively on his dress uniform. "Mid-stakes poker, $20 minimum." Cooper nodded his thanks and headed toward the poker area. The carved wooden sign above read "High Limit Poker Room," but the stakes were reasonable enough for his planned evening of relaxation. As he walked, he couldn't help but notice more bikers scattered throughout the casino. They all wore the same patch on their leather vests, a grinning skull with crossed chains beneath it, and the words, "Sons of Chaos MC" curved above. At table 7, Cooper found himself seated between a nervous-looking businessman and an elderly woman who reminded him of his grandmother. The dealer, a middle-aged man named Steve according to his name tag, welcomed him with a professional nod. "Evening, Sergeant," Steve said, noting Cooper's uniform. "Thank you for your service." Cooper offered a polite smile as he stacked his chips. He wasn't one to draw attention to his military background, but wearing his dress uniform had been unavoidable today. The first few hands went smoothly. Cooper played conservatively, winning small pots and folding when the bets got too high. His military training had taught him patience, a quality that translated well to poker. Around his fifth hand, the atmosphere at the table shifted. 3 bikers from the Sons of Chaos had moved closer, watching the game while pretending to be interested in a nearby slot machine. Cooper could feel their eyes on his uniform, could sense their whispered conversations. His combat-trained instincts began to tingle, but he kept his focus on the cards. The largest of the bikers, a heavily tattooed man with a gray-streaked beard and a vest that read "Snake" above the MC patch, moved closer to the table. Cooper noticed the man's knuckles were scarred, a sign of someone familiar with fighting. Snake exchanged looks with his companions, a silent communication that Cooper recognized from his own military experience. The elderly woman won a decent pot, and as she reached for her chips, Snake deliberately bumped into her chair. Cooper watched as the woman's chips scattered across the table. "Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am," Snake said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. "Let me help you with that." As he reached across the table, his elbow knocked over Cooper's drink, sending cold beer directly into the soldier's lap. The table went quiet. The dealer froze. The elderly woman clutched her purse tighter. Cooper remained still, his face neutral as he assessed the situation. He could feel the tension building, could see the bikers positioning themselves around the poker room. This wasn't a random accident. It was a deliberate provocation. Little did they know, they had just challenged the wrong soldier. Cooper quietly reached for the napkins on the table, dabbing at the beer stain spreading across his uniform pants. His face remained calm, but his mind was already mapping out every detail of his surroundings. 15 years of Special Forces training had taught him to transform everyday observations into survival data. "Looks like your fancy uniform got a little wet, soldier boy," Snake sneered, showing yellow teeth in a mocking grin. His 2 friends, standing behind him, chuckled. One was tall and skinny with a snake tattoo on his neck, while the other was short but muscular with a shaved head. The elderly woman at the table gathered her chips with shaking hands. "I think I'll cash out now," she said quietly, sensing the growing tension. The businessman followed her lead, practically knocking over his chair in his hurry to leave. Cooper noticed 3 more bikers entering the poker room, bringing the total to 6. They spread out, trying to look casual but actually blocking the main exits. It was a tactical move he'd seen before, in combat zones, not casinos. "No hard feelings about the beer, right?" Snake placed his heavy hand on Cooper's shoulder, squeezing just a little too hard. "Why don't you buy us a round to show there's no bad blood?" Cooper slowly stood up, causing Snake's hand to fall away. At 6-0, he was eye level with the biker. "I need to clean up," he said calmly. "Excuse me." His voice was quiet but firm, carrying the authority of someone used to giving orders in dangerous situations. The dealer, Steve, looked nervously between Cooper and the bikers. "Should I call security?" he asked, his hand already reaching for the phone under the table. "That won't be necessary," Cooper replied, though he'd noticed the 2 security guards by the entrance were deliberately looking the other way. They were either scared of the bikers or on their payroll. Neither option worked in his favor. As Cooper turned to walk toward the restroom, Snake's skinny friend stepped directly in his path. "Hey, he asked you a question, military man. It's not polite to walk away when someone's talking to you." Cooper stopped, maintaining a comfortable distance, just over arm's length, enough space to react if needed. He counted 8 bikers now, all wearing the Sons of Chaos patches. They had positioned themselves in a loose circle around him, trying to look casual to avoid drawing attention from other casino patrons. "I don't want any trouble," Cooper said, meaning every word. He'd seen enough violence in war zones to last a lifetime. "Let's all enjoy our evening." Snake moved closer, his boots heavy on the casino's carpeted floor. "Well, that's too bad, 'cause trouble just found you. See, this is our casino. We don't much like your type in here, acting all high and mighty in your fancy uniform." Cooper noticed the bulge of a knife in Snake's vest pocket. 2 other bikers had their hands in their jacket pockets, possibly concealing weapons. His mind automatically ran through various scenarios, just as he'd been trained to do in hostile territories. The casino's regular customers were starting to notice the situation. Some quickly moved away from the poker room, while others watched with nervous curiosity. A young waitress stopped in her tracks, her tray of drinks trembling slightly. "Last chance," Snake growled, moving even closer. "Buy us those drinks and apologize for disrespecting me, or things are gonna get real unpleasant." Cooper's eyes flickered to the emergency exit behind the poker tables, then to the kitchen entrance where 2 more bikers now stood. They thought they had him surrounded, but they didn't understand that surrounding a Special Forces soldier didn't always mean they had the advantage. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Cooper said, his voice still calm despite the escalating situation. "I'm just here to play cards." Snake's face twisted into an ugly smile. "Oh, you'll be playing something all right, just not cards." He cracked his knuckles loudly, a sound that echoed in the now quiet poker room. "Boys, let's show this soldier how we handle disrespect in our house." As the bikers began to close their circle, Cooper remained perfectly still. To the untrained eye, he looked nervous, maybe even scared. But if anyone had been watching closely, they would have noticed his breathing was steady, his hands were relaxed, and his eyes were constantly moving, analyzing, calculating, preparing. The real fight was about to begin. The tension in the Golden Sands Casino's poker room could be cut with a knife. 8 Sons of Chaos bikers had formed a tight circle around Staff Sergeant Cooper, who stood motionless in his beer-stained dress uniform. The nearby slot machines kept beeping cheerfully, creating an odd background noise for the dangerous situation unfolding. Snake took another step forward, reaching into his vest pocket. The movement was subtle, but Cooper's trained eyes caught the metallic glint of a switchblade. The biker wasn't pulling it out yet, just making sure Cooper knew it was there. "Follow us out back, soldier boy," Snake said, gesturing toward the service corridor. "We'll have our little chat where we won't disturb the other guests." Cooper's mind flashed back to similar situations in Afghanistan, where he'd led his team out of ambushes far worse than this. He knew the service corridor would be their chosen spot. Isolated, no cameras, and plenty of space for what they had planned. That corridor leads to a dead end, Cooper said calmly. There's only one way out. You should know that before we go there. Snake's confident smirk faltered slightly. Something in Cooper's voice made him pause. Not fear, but the kind of certainty that comes from experience. The biker quickly covered his uncertainty with a harsh laugh. Listen to this guy, boys. Snake called out to his friends. Trying to give us a geography lesson in our own casino. The other bikers joined in the laughter, but Cooper noticed their eyes weren't smiling. They were professionals at intimidation, but something about this soldier wasn't following their usual script. The skinny biker with the snake tattoo moved closer to Cooper's left side. Maybe the uniform's too tight, messing with his brain. Let's help him take it off. Cooper remained still, but his senses were working overtime. He noted each biker's position, their likely attack angles, and potential weapons. Two had knives, one had brass knuckles poorly hidden in his pocket, and the others would rely on fists. None appeared to have guns. Too risky even for them in a casino. Last warning, Cooper said, his voice carrying across the now silent poker room. Walk away, nobody needs to get hurt tonight. This time, all the bikers laughed. To them, this was hilarious, a single soldier thinking he could take on 8 experienced street fighters. What they didn't know was that Cooper wasn't just any soldier. His 4 tours weren't spent behind a desk. He was a special forces operator, trained in close quarters combat by some of the best fighters in the world. Get him, Snake ordered, and the skinny biker lunged forward, reaching for Cooper's collar. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion for the casino patrons watching from a safe distance. Cooper's right hand shot up, catching the skinny biker's wrist in mid-grab. In one fluid motion, he twisted the attacker's arm and used the man's own momentum to send him crashing into the poker table. Chips scattered everywhere as the biker collapsed, clutching his shoulder and howling in pain. The other bikers froze for a split second, surprised by the sudden display of skill. That moment of hesitation told Cooper everything he needed to know. They were used to fighting scared tourists and drunk gamblers, not trained combat veterans. Stop right there, a voice called out. Everyone turned to see 2 security guards finally approaching, their hands on their radios. Cooper knew it wasn't help arriving. These were the same guards who had been ignoring the situation earlier. Snake grinned nastily. See, soldier boy, even security knows you're causing trouble. They're going to help us escort you out back. Cooper glanced at the guards, noting their nervous expressions and the way they avoided eye contact. They were definitely on the biker's payroll, which meant any evidence of what was about to happen would conveniently disappear. Follow us, sir, one guard said weakly. Let's handle this outside. Cooper looked around one last time. 8 bikers, 2 corrupt security guards, an isolated corridor, and no witnesses. The odds were badly stacked against him, but as he followed them toward the service corridor, a slight smile crossed his face. In every Special Forces mission he'd led, the odds had been against him, and he was still here. The real question wasn't whether he could handle these men. The question was how many of them would be able to walk away when he was done. The service corridor was exactly what Cooper had expected. Long, narrow, and poorly lit. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, creating shadows that danced along the gray concrete walls. The smell of cleaning supplies and old mop water filled the air. Snake and his 7 remaining bikers spread out behind Cooper as the 2 corrupt security guards locked the corridor door. The hollow click of the lock echoed through the hallway, making it official. There was no going back now. You really messed up my friend's shoulder back there, Snake said, pulling out his switchblade. The blade snapped open with a sharp click. Guess we'll have to return the favor. Cooper stood relaxed, his hands loose at his sides. He watched as the bikers formed a half-circle around him, their boots scraping against the concrete floor. The 2 security guards stayed by the door, trying to look anywhere but at what was about to happen. Last chance? Cooper said quietly. I've seen enough fighting in Afghanistan. I don't want to hurt anyone here. Snake spat on the floor near Cooper's polished dress shoes. Afghanistan? That's cute. We've been running these streets for 20 years. You're just another tourist who watched too many action movies. The biker with the brass knuckles moved first, throwing a heavy punch aimed at Cooper's head. What happened next left everyone in the corridor frozen in shock. Cooper's movement was almost too fast to follow. He stepped inside the punch, deflecting the brass knuckles with his left forearm. In the same fluid motion, his right hand grabbed the biker's wrist, twisted sharply, and the sound of snapping bone echoed through the corridor. The brass knuckles clattered to the floor along with their owner, who clutched his broken wrist while curled up in pain. Two down, Cooper said calmly. Anyone else want to rethink their choices? Snake's face turned red with rage. Get him, he roared, lunging forward with his knife. Three bikers rushed Cooper at once. He moved like water, each motion flowing into the next. His elbow caught the first attacker in the solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs. As that biker stumbled backward, Cooper's boot connected with another's knee, producing a sickening crack. The third grabbed Cooper from behind, but faster than anyone could follow, Cooper dropped his weight and flipped the man over his shoulder. The biker crashed hard into the concrete floor, out cold. What the hell are you? Snake backed up, his knife hand trembling slightly. He had never seen anyone move like this before. Cooper stood straight, his breathing barely elevated. His uniform was still neat except for the beer stain, not a hair out of place. Four bikers lay on the ground around him, moaning or unconscious. The remaining three, including Snake, looked at each other uncertainly. Special Forces, Cooper answered simply. Close quarters combat instructor for 3 years. Before that, 5 years of direct action missions, the kind they don't talk about on the news. The security guards by the door looked terrified. One of them fumbled with his radio, probably calling for backup. Cooper knew he needed to end this quickly. Snake's face twisted with desperate anger. I don't care if you're freaking Superman. He charged forward, knife slashing wildly. Cooper sidestepped the attack with practiced ease. His hand clamped down on Snake's knife wrist, applying pressure to a specific nerve point. The blade clattered to the floor as Snake's fingers went numb. Before the biker could react, Cooper's other hand shot out in a perfect strike to Snake's throat. Not hard enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to drop the larger man to his knees, gasping for air. The last two bikers looked at each other, then at their fallen friends. Without a word, they turned and ran for the door. The security guards scrambled to unlock it, and all four men disappeared into the casino, leaving their groaning companions behind. Cooper surveyed the scene. 5 grown men lay on the ground, all breathing, none with life-threatening injuries. It had taken him less than 30 seconds to end the fight. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Police, please, he said when the operator answered. I'm at the Golden Sands Casino. I need to report an attempted assault and some corrupt security guards. And you might want to send an ambulance. He paused, looking at Snake, who was still gasping on the floor. Make that several ambulances. The sound of approaching sirens filled the air outside the Golden Sands Casino. Inside the service corridor, Cooper stood calmly among the fallen bikers, some groaning in pain, others still unconscious. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows on the concrete walls. Snake tried to sit up, still gasping from the throat strike. His face had turned from angry red to a pale white as he realized how badly he had misjudged the situation. His prized leather vest was torn, and the Sons of Chaos patch was covered in dust from the floor. Don't move, Cooper said firmly. Medical help is coming. None of your injuries are life-threatening if you stay still. Heavy footsteps echoed from the casino entrance as 6 police officers rushed in, their hands on their weapons. They stopped at the corridor entrance, taking in the scene with wide eyes. 5 large bikers sprawled on the ground, and 1 soldier in a slightly stained dress uniform standing perfectly calm in the middle of it all. Evening, officers, Cooper said, raising his hand slowly to show he was unarmed. Staff Sergeant James Cooper, U.S. Army Special Forces. I got military ID in my left breast pocket. The lead officer, a sergeant with gray hair, approached cautiously. We got multiple calls about a fight. What happened here? Cooper explained the situation clearly and professionally, just as he would report after a mission. He told them about the bikers' initial harassment, the corrupt security guards, and how he was forced to defend himself in the corridor. One of the younger officers took notes, occasionally glancing at the fallen bikers with a mix of surprise and respect. The security cameras in this section, Cooper added, they might mysteriously stop working when you check them. The guards are on the bikers' payroll. The police sergeant nodded grimly. We've suspected the Sons of Chaos had people inside this casino. Never could prove it until now. He turned to his officers. Johnson, Peters, go find those security guards. Rogers, call dispatch. We need at least 3 more units. These boys have warrants, I'm sure of it. Paramedics arrived next, pushing through the corridor with their medical kits. They began checking the injured bikers one by one. Snake tried to refuse treatment, but winced in pain every time he moved his head. You broke my wrist, man, the biker with the brass knuckles complained as a paramedic examined him. You tried to cave in my skull with an illegal weapon, Cooper replied calmly. Be thankful I didn't break anything else. A man in an expensive suit rushed into the corridor, his face red with anger and worry. I'm Gregory Phillips, the casino manager, he announced. What's going on here? Who's responsible for this mess? The police sergeant stepped forward. Your security guards have been helping the Sons of Chaos run their operation in your casino. This soldier was defending himself when they tried to assault him. The manager's face went from red to pale. Our guards? But they've been here for years. His voice trailed off as he realized the implications. Sir, Cooper addressed the manager, you might want to check your security footage from the past few months. I suspect you'll find a pattern of similar incidents that were covered up. More police officers arrived, along with 2 FBI agents who had been tracking the Sons of Chaos for months. The bikers who could walk were handcuffed and led away. Those who couldn't were strapped to gurneys for the trip to the hospital. Snake, still being treated by paramedics, glared at Cooper. This isn't over, soldier boy. Cooper met his gaze steadily. Actually, it is. The FBI has enough to shut down your entire operation now. Your choice is simple: cooperate and get a lighter sentence, or stay loyal to a gang that's about to disappear. The police sergeant approached Cooper again. We'll need a formal statement, but it can wait until tomorrow. Here's my card. And he lowered his voice. Off the record, thank you. These guys have been terrorizing this town for too long. As the corridor cleared out, the casino manager nervously approached Cooper. Sir, I want to apologize for what happened. Please, let us comp your room for the week. And, he hesitated. We might have an opening for a new head of security if you're interested. Cooper smiled slightly, straightening his uniform. Thank you, but I'll pass. I think I've had enough excitement for one evening. He checked his watch. Only 45 minutes had passed since he first walked into the casino. Though I wouldn't mind playing a few more hands of poker if table 7 is still open. The manager laughed nervously, relieved that Cooper wasn't planning to sue. The table is yours for as long as you want. And the drinks are on the house. The next morning, Cooper sat in a local diner across from the casino, sipping black coffee and reading the local newspaper. The front page headline caught his eye. Special Forces soldier takes down notorious biker gang at Golden Sands Casino. Someone had managed to snap a photo of the bikers being let out in handcuffs the night before. His phone buzzed, another message from his commanding officer. Good work cleaning up that mess, Cooper. Try to stay out of trouble for at least 24 hours. Cooper smiled slightly. News traveled fast in the military community. The bell above the diner's door chimed. 2 men in dark suits entered, scanning the room before walking directly to Cooper's booth. They showed their badges as they sat down. Staff Sergeant Cooper, the older agent, said, I'm Agent Roberts, and this is Agent Chen, FBI Organized Crime Division. Mind if we join you? Cooper gestured to the empty seats. I'm guessing this isn't about last night's poker game. Agent Chen opened a laptop. The Sons of Chaos have been on our radar for 3 years. Drug trafficking, extortion, weapons dealing, but we could never get enough evidence. Their corrupt contacts always warned them before we could move. Until last night, Roberts added, sliding photographs across the table. They showed Snake and other gang members meeting with various people, including the casino's security guards. Your little incident gave us probable cause to move on the whole operation. We raided their clubhouse at dawn. The waitress approached nervously, eyeing the FBI badges. Cooper ordered another coffee and a plate of eggs. The agents declined anything. We found everything, Chen continued excitedly. Drug stockpiles, illegal weapons, financial records. Even a list of all their paid informants. The Sons of Chaos are finished in Nevada. Cooper took a sip of his fresh coffee. Glad I could help, but I was just defending myself. Maybe, Robert smiled. But you did it in exactly the right place at the right time. Snake's in the hospital, singing like a bird. Turns out a broken windpipe makes a man reconsider his life choices. The diner's TV was showing local news footage of police cars surrounding a building with the Sons of Chaos logo. Several more bikers were being led out in handcuffs. "We have a suggestion," Roberts said, leaning forward. "The gang has chapters in 3 other states. We could use someone with your skills to help clean them up. Officially, you'd be a military liaison to the FBI's task force." Cooper shook his head. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm due back at Fort Bragg next week. I've got a team to train." "Shame," Chen said. "Although after last night, I bet those bikers are thankful you turned us down. The ones in the hospital keep telling anyone who'll listen about the super soldier who took them down." The diner's door chimed again. The casino manager, Phillips, walked in, looking much more composed than the night before. He spotted Cooper and approached the booth. "Sergeant Cooper," he said, nodding to the FBI agents. "I hoped I'd find you here. I've been doing some checking. In the past year, we've had 12 incidents with that gang. The corrupt guards covered everything up. 3 tourists were hospitalized." Cooper's face darkened. He didn't like hearing about civilians getting hurt. "But that's not why I'm here," Phillips continued. "A reporter wants to interview you. The story's going national. Our casino's getting calls from everywhere. People want to know about the soldier who stood up to the gang." "No interviews," Cooper said firmly. "I'm not looking for publicity." "At least let us thank you properly," Phillips insisted. "Free accommodation anytime you're in town, lifetime comp at our restaurants." Cooper stood up, leaving money for his breakfast. "Keep it. Just make sure your next security team is honest." He nodded to the FBI agents. "Gentlemen." As Cooper walked to the door, Agent Roberts called out, "If you change your mind about the task force—" "I won't," Cooper replied. "But if you need training recommendations for your tactical teams, call my unit." Outside, the morning sun was bright. Cooper checked his phone's GPS, 20 hours to Fort Bragg. He'd make it in 18 if traffic was good. As he walked to his truck, he noticed people pointing and whispering. The local paper had gotten a decent photo of him. Time to get back to base, he thought, where life was simpler. Just training, missions, and the daily routine of being a special forces operator. No more casino fights. At least until his next leave. 3 days after the casino incident, Cooper was back at Fort Bragg, standing in front of 20 new Special Forces candidates. The morning sun beat down on the training ground as he inspected the nervous recruits. None of them knew about what had happened in Nevada, and that's exactly how he wanted it. "Combat isn't about showing off," Cooper explained, pacing in front of the line. "It's about going home alive and making sure your team does too." A young lieutenant rushed across the training field, waving a folder. "Sergeant Cooper, Colonel Matthews needs you in his office." "Immediately, sir." Cooper found Colonel Matthews watching a news report on his office TV. The footage showed the Golden Sands Casino, with a reporter speaking excitedly. In a stunning development, the FBI has confirmed that one Special Forces soldier's actions led to the largest gang bust in Nevada history. "Can't keep yourself out of trouble for one weekend, Cooper?" Matthews asked, but there was a hint of amusement in his voice. "No media attention was supposed to get back here, sir," Cooper replied, standing at attention. "Well, that plan failed spectacularly." The colonel tossed him a folder. "The Sons of Chaos had chapters in California, Arizona, and Oregon. After what happened in Nevada, they're panicking. 3 high-ranking members turned themselves in this morning, afraid that we're sending more soldiers like you their way." Cooper opened the folder. Inside were photos of bikers surrendering to police, headlines from different cities, and intelligence reports. The gang was falling apart, all because of one incident in a casino. "That's not all," Matthews continued. "Remember those 2 tourists the bikers put in the hospital last month? One was a senator's nephew. Now she's calling for a full investigation into motorcycle gangs nationwide. You accidentally started a chain reaction, Cooper." "Permission to return to my training duties, sir?" Cooper asked, wanting to get away from all this attention. "Denied. Take a seat." Matthews leaned forward. "The FBI's counter-gang unit wants to revise their training program. They're requesting you as a consultant. 2 weeks, teaching their tactical teams about close quarters combat. Sir, I'm needed here with the new recruits. This comes from way above me, Cooper. Besides, Matthews smiled. After that casino video leaked, every recruit will be hanging on your every word. Cooper's head snapped up. What video? The colonel turned his computer monitor around. On the screen was grainy security footage from the casino's service corridor. Despite the poor quality, you could clearly see Cooper taking down all 8 bikers with military precision. The view count was already over 2 million. Impossible, Cooper said. The corrupt guards deleted that footage. They deleted it from the casino system, Matthews corrected. But the FBI had already tapped into the cameras weeks ago for their investigation. Now it's being used in police academies as a training video on efficient takedown techniques. Cooper rubbed his temples. So much for staying under the radar. A knock at the door interrupted them. A young sergeant entered with more papers. Sir, we're getting calls from police departments across the country. They'd all want Sergeant Cooper for training seminars. And, he hesitated. Hollywood called. Twice. No, Cooper said firmly. Absolutely not. Matthews laughed. Don't worry, I already told them no, but you're going to help the FBI. Consider it a new mission, making sure other law enforcement officers can handle themselves like you did. And the media attention, sir, will die down eventually. Until then, Matthews handed him another folder. Here's your new schedule. FBI training starts Monday. Try not to put their entire tactical team in the hospital. Cooper stood up, accepting the folder. Any other surprises I should know about, sir? Just one. Matthews grinned. The casino's security footage. It's required viewing for all new Special Forces candidates now. We're calling it the Casino Incident, how to end a fight before it begins. As Cooper left the office, he could hear cheering from the break room where several soldiers were watching the video again. So much for being just another instructor. His phone buzzed. A message from Agent Roberts. Snake and 6 others are testifying against the entire gang network. Still sure you won't join our task force? Cooper typed a quick reply. Still sure. But if you need more training tips, you know where to find me. Back at the training ground, his recruits straightened up as he approached. One of them had the local newspaper tucked in his pocket. The casino story was still making headlines. All right. Cooper called out. Let's talk about real-world combat situations. Lesson 1. The best fight is the one you can avoid. The recruits leaned forward eagerly. None of them noticed that their instructor was trying not to smile. A week after starting his FBI training sessions, Cooper was teaching a group of tactical officers when his phone vibrated. The caller ID showed Agent Roberts. Cooper stepped outside the training room to answer. We've got a problem, Roberts said without greeting. Snake's brother just got out of prison, Jimmy the Hammer Thompson. He's gathering what's left of the Sons of Chaos for revenge. Cooper watched through the window as his students practiced the takedown moves he'd just shown them. Not my problem anymore. I did what I had to do that night. Jimmy doesn't see it that way. Roberts' voice was tense. He was the gang's enforcer before going to prison. Did 10 years for almost beating a man to death. Now he's telling everyone he's going to teach the soldier boy a lesson. The FBI training facility's security guard approached, holding a package. Delivery for Staff Sergeant Cooper, he said. Cooper took the small box, examining it carefully. Old habits from Afghanistan. Inside was a single casino chip from the Golden Sands and a note. You got lucky once. Let's see how lucky you are when we're ready for you. The Hammer. Roberts. Cooper said into the phone. I just got their message. They're trying to scare you, Roberts replied. We can arrange protection. No. Cooper cut him off. I don't need protection, but I need information. How many men does Jimmy have? 12, maybe 15. Most of the gang's either in jail or running scared, but these are the hardcore ones. Real trouble. They've been spotted buying weapons. Cooper thought about the tourists the gang had hurt, about the corrupt guards who had let it happen. Running wasn't an option. It would just encourage them to keep terrorizing people. Send me everything you have on Jimmy and his crew, Cooper said. And Roberts? Don't put this in any official reports yet. I don't need my commanding officer pulling me off training duty. After hanging up, Cooper returned to the training room. The FBI tactical team was taking a water break, discussing the morning's lessons. All right, change of plans, Cooper announced. Today we're going to cover something new, dealing with multiple armed opponents in an urban setting. One of the trainees raised his hand. Like in that casino video? No, Cooper's face hardened. Much more dangerous. Real criminals, real weapons, no rules. The kind of situation where mistakes get people killed. For the next 3 hours, Cooper pushed the team harder than before. He taught them advanced techniques he learned in special forces, how to spot concealed weapons, how to handle multiple attackers, how to control the battlefield even when outnumbered. That evening, alone in his temporary office, Cooper studied the files Roberts had sent. Jimmy the Hammer Thompson's mugshot showed a man who looked like a meaner version of Snake, same cold eyes, but with more scars and none of his brother's fake charm. Cooper's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "Watch your back, soldier. The hammer's coming down hard." Instead of fear, Cooper felt a familiar calm settle over him, the same feeling he got before dangerous missions. He began making notes on a paper pad. Jimmy's crew spotted at 3 locations. Known weapons. Handguns, possibly automatic weapons. Previous attacks show preference for overwhelming force. Likely to strike at night, multiple vehicles. A knock on his door interrupted his planning. Agent Chen entered, looking worried. "Just got word. Jimmy's crew hit Snake's guards at the hospital. Broke them out an hour ago." Cooper stood up. "Snake's injuries were serious. He won't be fighting anyone for weeks." "Maybe not," Chen agreed, "but he knows how you think, how you move. He's already telling Jimmy all about your fighting style." Cooper walked to the window, watching the sun set over the FBI training facility. Good. Good. Chen looked confused. "They're studying you, planning for you." "Yes." Cooper nodded. "And that's their mistake. They think studying one fight will help them, but they don't understand." "Understand what?" "That night in the casino, I was trying not to hurt them too badly." Cooper turned back to his notes. "This time will be different. This time, I'm not a soldier on vacation trying to play cards. This time, I'm on a mission." Chen stared at him. "What are you planning?" "Nothing yet," Cooper replied. "But when they make their move, I'll be ready. And they'll learn why Special Forces operators are trained to be the hunter, never the prey." 3 days after Snake's escape from the hospital, Cooper sat in a dark FBI surveillance van, watching monitors that showed the Golden Sands Casino's parking lot. It was just past midnight, and a light rain made the parking lot lights blur into hazy circles. Target vehicles approaching. Agent Roberts' voice crackled through the radio. 3 black SUVs, heading your way. Cooper checked his watch. Jimmy the Hammer Thompson was right on schedule. After studying the gang's patterns, Cooper had predicted they would strike during the casino's slowest hours, when few witnesses would be around. "I count 15 men," Agent Chen reported from his position. "Jimmy's in the lead vehicle. Snake's with him, still moving slow from his injuries, but he's armed." Cooper touched his earpiece. "Everyone clear on the plan." "FBI tactical teams in position," Roberts confirmed. "But I still think you're crazy for insisting on being the bait." "It's the only way," Cooper replied calmly. "They need to think they've got me cornered. That's when they'll make mistakes." The casino's front doors slid open as Cooper walked through them, dressed in civilian clothes this time, jeans, a dark jacket, and boots. He headed straight for the poker room, just as he had that first night. But this time, every step was part of a carefully planned operation. Security cameras tracked the gang members as they entered the casino in small groups, trying not to draw attention. They were dressed like regular customers, but Cooper's trained eye spotted the bulges of hidden weapons under their jackets. "They're spreading out," Chen whispered through the radio, "using the same formation they tried last time." Cooper sat at the poker table, playing a few hands while watching their reflections in the glass dividers. Jimmy was easy to spot. A giant of a man with massive arms covered in prison tattoos. Snake limped along beside him, his neck still bruised from their previous encounter. "Sir," the dealer said nervously, "one of 2 FBI agents planted inside the casino. Would you like to cash out?" "One more hand," Cooper replied, loud enough for nearby gang members to hear. Right on cue, his phone rang. He answered it, speaking clearly. "Yeah, I'll head to my car in about 5 minutes." Just need to finish up here." Jimmy took the bait. Cooper watched in the reflection as the gang leader dispatched his men toward the exits and the parking garage. They thought they were setting up an ambush. They didn't realize they were walking into one. Cooper lost his last hand deliberately, collected his remaining chips, and headed for the cashier. As he walked, he did a mental count of the gang members. 3 by the main entrance, 4 near the emergency exit, 2 watching the elevators, and 6 more, including Jimmy and Snake, following him at a distance. "Everyone in position," Cooper whispered. "Ready," came multiple responses through his earpiece. Cooper walked into the parking garage, his footsteps echoing off the concrete walls. He headed for his truck, parked exactly where they expected it to be, in a poorly lit corner of the second level. "They're moving," Roberts reported. "All units stand by." The sound of multiple footsteps came from different directions as the gang members closed in. Cooper reached his truck, deliberately fumbling with his keys to give them time to get closer. "That's far enough, soldier boy," Jimmy's deep voice boomed across the garage. "Turn around slowly." Cooper turned. Jimmy stood 20 feet away, flanked by Snake and 4 others. The rest of the gang emerged from behind cars and support pillars, creating a circle around him. In the dim light, their weapons gleamed. "You hurt my little brother," Jimmy growled. "Nobody does that to my family." 15 against 1, Cooper observed calmly. "Feeling brave now?" Jimmy laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. "We studied that security footage. Watch how you move, how you fight. You won't surprise us this time." "You're right," Cooper agreed. "No surprises." He raised his voice slightly. "Now." Suddenly, the garage's lights blazed to full brightness. Red laser dots appeared on the chests of every gang member as FBI snipers revealed their positions. The screech of tires echoed as 3 tactical vans blocked the exits. 20 FBI agents in full gear emerged from their hiding spots, weapons ready. "Drop your weapons." Roberts' voice boomed through a megaphone. "You're surrounded." Jimmy's face contorted with rage as he realized the truth. They hadn't trapped Cooper, he had trapped them. "The thing about watching that security footage," Cooper said quietly, "is that you spend so much time studying how I fight, you forgot to study how I think." The garage erupted into chaos. The parking garage exploded into action. Most of the gang members dropped their weapons immediately, faced with the overwhelming FBI presence. But Jimmy the Hammer Thompson wasn't going back to prison without a fight. "Kill him," Jimmy roared, raising his gun toward Cooper. Before he could fire, Cooper moved with the same lightning speed that had surprised Snake's crew in the casino. He crossed the distance to Jimmy in 2 steps, deflecting the gun with his left hand while his right delivered a precise strike to Jimmy's weapon hand. The gun clattered to the concrete floor. Snake tried to tackle Cooper from behind, but his injuries made him slow. Cooper sidestepped, using Snake's momentum to send him crashing into a parked car. The car alarm began blaring, adding to the chaos. "FBI!" On the ground, agents shouted from all directions. 2 gang members tried to make a break for the stairs. They made it 3 steps before being tackled by FBI tactical team members. Cooper's students from the training sessions, putting their new skills to good use. Jimmy recovered from losing his gun and threw a massive punch at Cooper's head. The blow would have knocked out a normal man, but Cooper wasn't normal. He ducked under the swing and responded with 2 quick strikes to Jimmy's solar plexus, followed by a sweep that took the bigger man's legs out from under him. "Stay down," Cooper warned as Jimmy hit the ground hard. But Jimmy had earned his nickname the Hammer for a reason. He rolled and pulled a hidden knife from his boot, slashing wildly at Cooper's legs. Cooper jumped back, but the blade caught his jeans, tearing through fabric and drawing a thin line of blood. "That's the last mistake you'll make," Cooper said, his voice cold. What happened next was so fast that even the FBI agents had trouble following it. Cooper moved like a blur, disarming Jimmy with a bone-cracking wrist lock, then using a combination of strikes that he'd learned from a martial arts master in Southeast Asia. Jimmy the Hammer Thompson, the man who had terrorized people for 20 years, collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. "Clear," shouted the FBI team leaders one by one. The garage lights came up to full brightness, revealing the scene. 13 gang members were in handcuffs, 2 were unconscious, and Jimmy lay groaning on the ground, his face pressed against the cold concrete. "I told you to study how I think, not just how I fight," Cooper said to Jimmy as Agent Roberts handcuffed him. Snake, his face pressed against a police car, called out, "This isn't over." "Actually, it is," Agent Chen replied, holding up a phone. "We recorded everything. Your brother gave direct orders to kill a federal witness. That's 20 years minimum, plus all the weapons charges." Cooper watched as the gang members were led away to waiting police vans. Agent Roberts approached him with a first aid kit for his leg. "Minor cut," Cooper said, waving it off. "Had worse shaving." "You know," Roberts smiled, "there's still a place for you on our tactical response team. After tonight, the director himself would approve it." Cooper shook his head. "My place is with my unit, training the next generation of operators. Besides," he grinned slightly, "I think I've had enough excitement in casinos." The FBI tactical team members gathered around Cooper, wanting to thank him for his training that had helped make the operation successful. As they talked, Colonel Matthews appeared, walking through the garage with his hands in his pockets. "Getting into trouble again, Cooper?" the colonel asked. "No, sir. Just helping the FBI wrap up some loose ends." Matthews nodded. "Good work. But next time you plan an operation like this, keep your commanding officer in the loop. I had to hear about it from the FBI director himself." "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir." "Don't be sorry. Be ready to pack." Matthews handed him a folder. "New orders. After your FBI training sessions are done, you're being promoted to chief instructor at the Special Forces Training Center. Seems someone showed your casino videos to the general." Cooper took the folder, hiding his smile. "What about my team, sir?" "They'll be fine. You trained them well." Matthews looked around the garage. "Now finish up here. And Cooper, try to stay out of casinos for a while." As Cooper walked out of the garage that night, he thought about how a simple evening of poker had led to all this. Behind him, he could hear the FBI agents still talking about how he'd taken down Jimmy. His phone buzzed. A message from the Golden Sands casino manager. "Your lifetime comp offer is still good. Just please use the front door next time." Cooper laughed and headed home. He had training sessions to plan, new recruits to teach, and more important things to do than worry about casinos and bikers. But he kept the casino chip from that first night. Some souvenirs were worth keeping. The end.